Welcome to the Following On podcast with me, Guy Swindles, and of course, Steve Harmison, who you'll recognise as we look back on day 3 and what turned out to be the final day of the third test in Rawalpindi between England and Pakistan that saw England slump to a rather disappointing 9-wicket defeat. And after scoring 800 in their first innings in the first test, lose the series. Harmy, England were up against it when they started this morning at 24 for 3, but what did you make of the batting performance?
I think you've got to give it. I think you've got to give a lot of credit to the way Pakistan bowled. They've found a formula since that 800, which is turning pitches in two bowlers who have got different qualities. An off spinner who bowls very quickly, very smartly, and a left arm spinner who turns the ball away from the right-handed batter, who is, he's got so much experience in the first class game, he's got the pace and the sort of accuracy on these last two surfaces to really put England under pressure. So when Joe Root and Harry Brooks going, you're thinking, right, can England eke out between them to a 40, 50 run lead and then hopefully get another 50 or 60 with the rest to stand any chance of giving Pakistan a game. But honestly, if I'm really being brutally honest, I didn't believe that England would win. Once they lost a couple of wickets this morning, it was England have really struggled. Not in this series. Not in this series against Pakistan's spin. I think his spin in general under McCullum and Stokes, to really have, apart from that unbelievable innings in Hyderabad of Ollie Pope, and I'm sure his place is going to come in question. But England have really had a struggle against spin. Bazball works on flat pitches. Bazball works when everything's going well for England. But when England seem to be under pressure, and Guy, I spoke about this yesterday briefly with Sam Ellard, we were talking about when England come under real pressure. I'm not sure they handle it that well. I really don't think they understand how it seems to be with one size fits all. We hit or we miss. And unfortunately, against Spain in the last calendar year, we have been really miss against top quality spin on turning conditions. And I think we got found out and got found wanting. Yes, we can criticise England. I think we have to give a huge amount of credit to Pakistan. They've been excellent these last two test matches.
Yeah, and they learnt their lesson, which is possibly something England could look at as well. After the first test, when they got blasted off the pitch by England's fantastic batting, suddenly it was a spinner's paradise. They kept the same wicket for the second test as they'd used at the first, and by day 7, effectively, ball was turning sideways and not bouncing. And then in Rawalpindi, they made sure that they managed to set up the same wicket again. Is there a feeling possibly England is concentrating so much on playing in the Ashes that they forget to play other sorts of cricket on occasion?
I don't think so. I think what you find is England have got this one-size-fits-all game plan. And this one-size-fits-all game plan doesn't work when a ball's spinning. And I actually don't think this one-size-fits-all game plan works when you play against top-quality bowlers. And I think a lot of people, and I love it. I love what McCullum and Stokes have done to the game. I love what they've done to the Test cricket in this country and Test cricket around the world. I think if you ask about Bazball in India and Australia, I don't think they think it's very good. I don't think they talk about it in a positive manner. I think they talk about it. It's a good formula. It's a good formula against lesser nations. It's a good formula on good flat batting paradises. But when you come up against top quality, and like England have done, then England that one size fits all formula doesn't really work, because I feel as a bowler, if you put England under pressure for 4 or 5 overs at either end, something will happen, and something will happen big time, and England will create a chance for the opposition by themselves, i.e. give their wicket away or create an opportunity for the opposition to take a chance. And if you give top quality bowlers a chance to do that, then they'll run through you. And unfortunately, I think that's what this formula of McCullum and Stokes is. And I think You can say looking at the Ashes, you can say looking against India. I think the barometer will be how they're judged and how McCullum and Stokes is judged against India and against Australia. I don't for 1 minute think they're thinking that far ahead. Because at this minute in time, there's a hell of a lot of them in not great form. I mean, Zach missed the back end of the summer. Ben missed quite a bit. The next cab's off the rank. I mean, me and Sam talked about Ollie Pope yesterday. As Ollie Pope, I'd stick with Ollie Pope till the end of New Zealand because I don't see anybody else challenging in this environment. I don't think they'll let anybody in. So that's two different arguments altogether. One, is there a player that can come into this environment and perform as well as Ollie Pope or as good as Ollie Pope? I'm not so sure. Two, McCullum and Stokes don't want to let players in. I mean, we've seen that with, the next cab off the rank for 12, 18 months was Dan Lawrence. And instead of going back to a conventional opener or an opener that suited opening the baton, such a niche position, they go, Dan Lawrence, you got to have a go up top because we're not bringing a Keaton Jennings in or somebody we're not sure of whether he fits in the group or not. I mean, things like that don't need to change because at the end of the day, that's their prerogative of the way they want to have their setup. But at this minute in time, there's players in not. I mean, you look at this series since it's gone, and that flat wicket in the first Test match. Since then, you've had Duckett 114 and a 52, and you've had Smith's 89. Only 3 scores over 50 in 4 innings. And I think that tells you against top quality pressurized situations. I'm not sure this team handles it very well.
No, I was going to look at the positives, and you've largely wrapped them all up there, Harmy, and Joe Root and Brooks will remember the first Test very happily as well. But you're right. So in Asia this year, England have played 6 Tests against India and Pakistan in the calendar year. They won 1, but they've lost 5 by a distance and largely to spin. So there is obviously work to be done. But do England just put this behind them finally, if you like, and just go, right, what's happened is happened. We'll now move on to the next thing and see how it goes? Or should England be spending more time learning lessons from results like this?
I hope they'll learn lessons. I think they'll put it right behind them and just move on. That's the way this group does. They go to New Zealand. It's going to be a tough test in New Zealand. New Zealand look as though they're in. I mean, I'm not sure what the score is this morning, but I mean, India are still, as we speak, 231 behind with 4 wickets down. So there's 6 wickets left. I mean, New Zealand could have gone to India and win 2-0. Could be 2-0 up by the time this podcast goes out. And then you look at England are going to New Zealand, who are on a bit of confidence. You've got some bowlers coming to the fore in Will O'Rourke, Ben Sayers. I mean, they've got 1 or 2 other dilemmas of New Zealand, but they're going to come and hit England hard for them 3 Test matches pre-Christmas. So England will just move on and just look at the next one that goes down the line. And I've got no problem with that. The one thing I'd be worried about, and I'm worried about and would be worried about, is how the manner of defeats that we are when we lose. And it seems to be when we get put under pressure. And long term, what I think this group's going to be judged on over the course of the next 18 months is going to be played against India and Australia. And there's not much more pressurized situations than playing against one of the best teams in the world, fair enough, in our own back garden, and then the Ashes. And if we're losing games when we're put under huge amount of pressure and we are so reliant on one man with the bat, and I'm sure the team will rebuff that and say, no, well, Jimmy Smith scored runs in the summer and Ben Duckett's been unbelievable. Under pressure, England have got one batter that stands up the majority of the time. And I think that is what I'd be concerned about going into them 10 Test matches. So it's easy to say, look, it's been a bad experience. We did well in the first Test. We lost 2-1. Let's move on and let's see where we go. But the things that we are losing and how we're losing would concern me because I don't think we are handling the pressurized situations when a bowler gets on top of a batter it just seems as though there's only one way out, and that's go for the big shot. Go for it, rather than just respect the player that you're playing against and wait for him to crack under pressure. At the minute, I think especially in Asia, we don't go back to Asia until 2027, February 2027. We're going to Bangladesh, so that that alleviates that problem a little bit. But my problem is not you're playing against spin. My problem is when we are put under pressure, we haven't handled it very well in recent times, and we've got 10 test matches against the big two, and the pressure will be enormous then, and that's where we need to be better.
Well, my thanks to Steve Harmison for joining us on this the talkSPORT Following On podcast. We leave you with England having, after winning the first test in Pakistan, ending up losing the series 2-1 after collapsing on day 3 to 112 all out, and in their second innings, and eventually losing by 9 wickets. You've heard what Steve Harmison has to say, but please continue to join us on the Following On podcast, where we'll continue to talk all things cricket.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.